That's what kicked off the Cold War. And my career basically has been in the Cold War. Like I mentioned, my first assignment in 1977 out of the Air Force Academy was KC-135 aircraft commander, refueling a strategic reconnaissance aircraft. We were assigned in Strategic Air Command, where they had the missiles and the bombers and the nuclear subs. And it was our responsibility, our wartime mission, to do battle damage assessment after the first round of a nuclear exchange. So that was a pretty sobering mission. What we really wound up doing most of the time was flying Joint Chiefs of Staff directed missions to keep an eye on places like Cuba and China and Russia, because this was back before the reconnaissance satellites were as good as they were today. And that aircraft, the SR-71, you've probably heard this story, it was specially developed so that you could not shoot it down. It could outrun any missile that would try to take it down, and they have tried. I remember a post-flight discussion with an SR-71 crew where they were showing us this little plat, and they go, see, right there? Yeah, that's the missile they launched at us, right there. They were going so screaming fast, they didn't even see it until after they landed and looked at the data from the mission. Next, I was working as a software manager in the inertial upper stage, which was an upper stage that would boost satellites, some of them reconnaissance satellites. So again, I'm supporting reconnaissance there. But then for about 30 years, I was working in an aerospace company sustaining and maintaining intercontinental ballistic missiles, which definitely is a component of the Cold War. These are the aircraft I flew. And these are photos I took from here at the museum, so you can go out and look at them if you'd like. These are in the hangar. This is a T-38, a T-37. And I flew these in pilot training, and then I also flew the T-38 at the same time I flew the tanker, because this was back in 1977 during the fuel crisis, and they thought that maybe the T-38s were a little bit more economical of fuel than a 300,000-pound tanker flying that around. So, you know, it's sort of like they said, would you mind flying a little supersonic jet aircraft instead? And I said, oh, twist my arm. I'll do that. And so these are the three aircraft I flew. This aircraft, the T-37, if you look closely when you go into the museum, you'll see little streaks at the front nose. This aircraft was specially designed to spin. They wanted to teach young student pilots how to pull out of a spin, and so they had to teach them first how to get into a spin. And they wanted to do it with an aircraft that they were pretty sure 99.9% of the time the pilot could recover out of a spin. I hated that aircraft because it was unpressurized. You'd fly up to 25,000 feet, kick the rudder, push the stick, and go into this terrible spin. I never was one for roller coasters, and that was the best roller coaster ride ever built. And in the midst of that, you're trying to figure out how to save yourself and get out of the spin. But I managed to get past that particular curriculum and move on and graduate and fly the KC-135Q. This aircraft is the one we refueled most of the time because most of the KC-135s were assigned to Strategic Air Command. Most of the KC-135s were on alert with the B-52s or other bombers. And so it's the classic, you hear the klaxon, you got to run out to the airplane and go fly your mission. So these guys had 99% of their time filled up with that mission. Since we were against SR-71s, we got a lot of other missions as well. I've refueled every aircraft in the Air Force and a few in the Navy and the Army. And so I've got some of those stories in my blog, and I can come back and talk about those. But the SR-71, of course, was the funnest because that was an operational mission directed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was right after Vietnam, and so there weren't really any operational missions going on except ours, to go out and gather reconnaissance for the Cold War.